Ukrainian drones launched a massive and, importantly, effective attack on the occupiers last night. Among the targets that came under attack were elements of Russia's and occupied Crimea's oil logistics. But the biggest news is the video of burning Tu-142 aircraft, an oil tanker, and an Iskander missile system in Taganrog, Russian Federation. In addition, another oil depot in Russia is on fire again. And against this backdrop, a very important piece of news emerges. Ukraine and Canada have agreed to launch joint production of drones for the Ukrainian army. The enterprise will be established on Canadian territory, and the drones themselves will strike the occupiers in Russia. At the same time, we also have some complicated diplomatic news related to our allies. Polish President Karol Nawrocki threatened Ukraine and President Zelensky. Warsaw is outraged that one of the special operations units of the Ukrainian armed forces has been named after the heroes of the Ukrainian insurgent army. Therefore, in this episode, we will analyze why this conflict with the Poles is dangerous and how it will all end. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss all these topics together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the episode, and leave any comment you want. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. So, let's start with the news about the attack on Russia. On the night of May 30th, Russian air defense forces intercepted 127 Ukrainian aircraft-type drones over 12 regions, as well as over the occupied Crimea and the Sea of Azov. This is reported by the Russians themselves. The drones struck a transshipment oil depot, the southern oil company in the industrial zone of the city of Armavir. This is in the Krasnodar Krai region. A fire broke out at the facility. In addition, something was burning in Primorsko-Akhtarsk, where a military airfield is located. The oil depot in Feodosia was also hit once again. During the night, it was hit twice during the night, after which two separate fires broke out. And judging by the satellite images, the column of smoke stretched almost 10 kilometers toward the Black Sea. In addition, Ukrainian armed forces drones struck the seaport of Taganrog at night in the Rostov region. As a result, a tanker, a fuel reservoir, and an administrative building caught fire. And this is where things get really interesting. According to the commander of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces, Robert Magyar Brody, the drones struck a tanker of the Russian Shadow Fleet, the Kurgan Naftoproduct oil depot in Taganrog, Rostov region, as well as the marine oil terminal in Feodosia. Next is a quote from Magyar. The night of May 30th was explosive. The freedom-loving Ukrainian bird of the unmanned systems forces struck 23 military targets and facilities deep in the enemy's operational rear during the night. And further in the video, we can see that very hit on the oil tanker of the Russian Federation's Shadow Fleet. In addition, Magyar showed how the unmanned systems forces destroyed an Iskander missile system and two Tu-142 aircraft at a military airfield in Taganrog, Rostov region of the Russian Federation. And here I should note that the Tu-142 is a long-range anti-submarine aircraft based on a strategic bomber. They were created to detect and destroy submarines. Well, and the Iskander is a Russian operational tactical missile system, and it carries out the launch of surface-to-surface missiles, and it was also attacked at its launch position near It looks like there will be a lot more of these kinds of drone attacks. Ukraine and Canada have agreed to launch joint production of drones for the Ukrainian army. As part of the agreement, a new enterprise will be created, and the drones produced will be sent specifically to the defense forces of Ukraine. It is noted that this project will be implemented with the support of the governments of Ukraine and Canada. It will speed up the delivery of equipment to Ukrainian defenders for conducting reconnaissance and planning operations. At the same time, this project is beneficial not only for Ukraine but also for Canada. The point is that the implementation involves expanding Canadian production capacity in the field of critical technologies, as well as access to effective solutions for modern warfare. But unfortunately, last night there were also attacks on Ukraine from the Russian side. On the night of May 30, Russia attacked Ukraine with an Iskander-M ballistic missile, 6 Kh-101 cruise missiles and 290 attack drones. The Ukrainian Air Defense Forces shot down or suppressed 284 targets, 5 Kh-101 missiles, and 279 enemy drones. The Sumy region suffered the most as the Russians terrorize it almost constantly. And now, let's move from the situation at the front to the diplomatic scandal. The Poles attacked Ukraine and its leadership with criticism and even calls to sever ties with Ukraine. The president of Poland, Karol Nawrocki, is personally making threats, as is even the friendly head of the Polish government, Donald Tusk. Well, let's calmly discuss everything. So, on the eve of May 26, on the eve of the Day of Special Operations Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky awarded an honorary title in honor of the heroes of the UPA, the Ukrainian Insurgent Army. And this title was given to the separate North Special Operations Center of Ukraine's Special Operations Forces. The purpose of this decision, as stated in the President's decree, is to restore the historical traditions of the National Army. Already the next day, that is on May 27, this news was picked up by right-wing and far-right Polish politicians who called Zelensky's decision outrageous and demanded concrete actions from the Polish authorities. And these right-wing Poles called it a sign of ingratitude. Right-wing forces accused the Ukrainian insurgent army of numerous killings of Poles during World War II, and in particular, the right in Poland bring up one of Russian propaganda's favorite themes. This is the Volhynia massacre and the destruction of the Polish population in eastern Galicia in 1943-1944. But at the same time, for many Ukrainians, the UPA, the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, is a symbol of the Ukrainian people's struggle for their independence. And it's important to note that recently there were even special summits of Polish and Ukrainian historians in Poland who were trying to find a way to reach mutual understanding on this issue. On the third day after this whole scandal broke out, Polish President Karol Nawrocki personally commented on the situation. He stated that he is very critical of Volodymyr Zelensky's decision to name one of the Ukrainian units after the heroes of the UPA. According to him, this decision gave Russian propaganda more fuel. Next, I will quote Nawrocki. This is also proof that those who say Ukraine should join the European Union without any conditions are very mistaken. President Zelensky has proven that Ukraine, from a mental standpoint, is not ready to be part of the European family. Ukraine can form its own memory policy, its own historical policy. However, Poland also has the right to form its own memory policy and historical policy. On June 8, a meeting of the chapter of the Order of the White Eagle will take place. I suggested that one of the items should be stripping President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky of the order. And here it's important to note the subtlety of this moment, because for 2 whole days Nawrocki refrained from commenting on Zelensky's decision, just like his political opponents, Prime Minister Donald Tusk and Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski, who are more favorable towards Ukraine. And all 3 of them hinted that now is not the time to quarrel, but some symbolic decision to appease the Polish right will still have to be made. And most likely, Zelensky will have his Polish award, the Order of the White Eagle, taken away. And that will be the end of the story. In the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, by the way, they calmly reminded the Poles that Ukraine is meeting them halfway, so it's not worth escalating the conflict too much. Next, I'll quote Pechiy, spokesperson for the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is disappointing, as it goes against the broader trend of resolving problematic issues in Ukrainian-Polish relations that we have observed over the past year and a half. In particular, the process of searches and exhumations was resumed. For the first time in many years, the Congress of Historians resumed its work. The discussion about the past should be substantive and based on reliable sources. Our history confirms only Moscow benefits from disputes between Ukrainians and Poles. By initiating the awarding of an honorary title to their unit, our soldiers certainly did not intend to offend the friendly Polish people. For them, the struggle of the UPA symbolizes only the resistance against Moscow's imperial policy and is in no way directed against the Poles. At the same time, we cannot deny the tragic pages of history, including crimes against civilians committed by both Ukrainian and Polish formations during World War II. And I'd add that no matter what happens next. And Ukrainians will always remember the incredible enthusiasm of the Polish people who sincerely and devotedly helped and continue to help Ukrainians from the very first days of the full-scale war started by Russia. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video or by using the QR code on your screens. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.